Hi there everyone, you join us at a rather solemn time here in London at the Royal Society because just a few days ago the Queen Elizabeth II, died. This is obviously a global event, but it's also a really important event here at the Royal Society because the Queen, like monarchs before her, was the patron of the Royal Society. What does that mean, Keith, to be the patron of the Royal Society?
It's where the name comes from. We are the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge. Since Charles II, the monarch has been the patron of the organisation. And the Society's powers, if you like, come from a royal charter. This is how the organisation is run.
So Keith has got some interesting documents for us here because we want to talk about how you change from one patron to another. What happens when the monarch dies? But before we look at these, I have noticed a few interesting things, Keith, as I came in today. One was in the foyer of the building where you have the mace on display, the mace being this sort of symbolic representation of the Queen. You've got this black cloth over it.
Yeah, it's draped with a black cloth, and it's just really a mark of respect to show that the Queen is no longer with us. It's a symbol, if you like, of that.
Another thing I've noticed is actually this black table we're using now, a few minutes ago, had the Book of Condolence on it. You're doing a condolence book.
That's right. We commissioned a condolence book, and fellows of the Royal Society and staff will sign that with their messages, and visiting scientists passing through the building also. That will be presented to the palace.
Well, let's come to these documents we've got here. And most of what we have here refers to when the Queen's father, George VI, died in 1952 and Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth II.
This time, of course, when the monarch passed, it was over 70 years since anything like this had happened. The value of archives in these circumstances is we could go back to the files, find documents like this, and this told us the order of what happened last time. It's kind of an order, some of the precedents that were being considered. So first of all, a message of condolence sent to the sovereign, the new sovereign, on the death of the old king in this case. And in just the same way, a message of condolence will be sent to Charles III, expressing sorrow at the passing of his mother.
It is not customary for the Society to send a wreath on the occasion of royal funerals, it says here.
Yeah. And the next step is to prepare a loyal address for the new monarch. And that serves a couple of purposes. Again, it reiterates the sorrow felt at the passing of the Queen, and it presents the Royal Society and requests that the new monarch will become the new patron of the Royal Society.
Okay, and it says here, on the death of King Edward VII, the address was signed and sealed in council, so by the whole council of the Royal Society, but then it points out, but on that of George V, it was only signed by the President. So here, when George VI has died, they're figuring out who's going to sign it.
Yes, exactly right.
Presumably this royal address was prepared, and we actually have a copy here.
It was, yes, we have a copy because it was printed for presentation, but it went through a proofing process. They wanted to get it exactly right, of course. And here we have a copy of the 1952 Loyal Address of the Royal Society.
To the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, the Loyal Address of the President, Council and Fellows of the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge. Most gracious Sovereign, we, your Majesty's most dutiful and loyal subjects, the President, the Council and Fellows of the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge, humbly desire to express our grief and our sense of personal bereavement in the loss of your universally beloved and revered father, our late Sovereign King George VI, a loss which is mourned by the whole nation and Commonwealth. To your Majesty, we offer our most heartfelt sympathy. Obviously, there is a purpose to this, though. They want the Queen Elizabeth II, to become the new patron, so we do have to get to business at some point here. We are proud to remember that 20 years ago, His late Majesty, when Duke of York, was graciously pleased to enter the fellowship of the Royal Society and later, on his accession to the throne, to become our patron. He recognised that the development of science during his reign was of the greatest importance and that the improvement of natural knowledge, for which the Royal Society was founded by your royal predecessor, King Charles II, was an object ever worthy of his patronage and support. We venture to express the hope that your Majesty will graciously consent to become our patron and thus maintain the close bond between the Crown and the Society which has existed since 1662. There's the ask. Will you continue this tradition and
Yes.
and remain our patron?
1662 is the date of the first royal charter granted to the Society by Charles II, although the relationship had actually gone back to 1660 when the first request went for the Society to be backed by the King.
And we have a reply from Buckingham Palace.
We do indeed have a reply. So this is the Queen's reply to the royal address.
Interestingly, we've talked about this before here on Objectivity. We have a black border on the paper, a sign of mourning.
Of course, because the Queen was in mourning, yes.
And here we go. Buckingham Palace. I thank you for this loyal and dutiful address. My father, to whom you pay so warm a tribute, watched with great interest the work of the Society in the realm of science, where such momentous discoveries were made during his reign. My husband and I share his conviction of the importance of these studies. And here's the important part. It gives me very great pleasure to become the patron of the Society and to assure you of my determination to continue and maintain that close and intimate connection which has existed between the throne and the Society for nearly 300 years. And there it is, personally signed by Queen Elizabeth II, dated 22nd of May, 1952. Now that brings us to one of the absolute crown jewels of the Royal Society. We've seen it numerous times before. You may even recognise it. This is the charter book signed by every fellow of the Royal Society. And then whenever there's a new monarch, we have one of these very special pages inserted into the book. And here is Queen Elizabeth II's page, signed by her. We've seen this page numerous times. There are other signatures on it too, other members of the royal family. But what we've got today, for the first time, is some of the paperwork associated with getting the Queen to sign this book.
And interestingly, I didn't know the process. So it was good to get back to the original filing and just see what happened kind of step by step in order to achieve something rather simple, which is to get a signature in a book.
There it is. There's the Queen's signature there at the top.
And as patron.
Because you might think, hang on, she signed it twice, but that's her mum, isn't it?
That's right. So her mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, signed in 1957.
Almost exact same signature. It's amazing. And we have Charles, who will be signing again, hopefully, when and if he becomes patron. Mm-hmm. But he has signed this page, along with William, Anne, numerous other people.
Other royals, yes.
Other royals.
We have a file here of the correspondence that went between the Royal Society and Buckingham Palace on the process. So here, first of all, in July 1952, once the Queen had said she would become patron, the process begins. So this is to the private secretary to the Queen. You may remember that on the occasion of the accessions of King Edward and King George, you very kindly agreed to submit the charter book of the Royal Society to each sovereign for his signature, they're still using his, of course, as patron. The Council of the Royal Society would be most grateful if you would again be kind enough to assist the Society in this way by submitting the charter book to Her Majesty, who has already graciously consented to become our patron. We have prepared for this purpose a specially illuminated page of the charter book and should be greatly honoured if Her Majesty would affix her signature thereupon.
Okay, and here's the page being referred to, the illuminated page. I mean, most people who sign the book come to the Royal Society. It's a great occasion when people sign the book, but I guess the monarch's important enough that the book goes to them. Exactly
right, yes, and of course they are probably busy at this time, so it's a sensible step, I think. Here we have a reply. This is from Buckingham Palace, late July 1952. Thank you for your letter of 30th of July. The Queen will certainly sign the charter book of the Royal Society, of which she is now the patron. Her Majesty is going to Balmoral next week, and as the last few days before her departure are always very busy ones, perhaps you would not mind waiting until October, when she will once again be in London, before submitting the book. If you could send it round to me as soon as you see that the Queen is in residence at Buckingham Palace, it shall be submitted without delay.
Little bit of extra significance there because she happens to be in Balmoral, which of course is where the Queen was when she died recently.
Indeed, yes. Yeah. She had a long association with Scotland.
Now here we go. We skip forward to October. Good news from the palace.
Yep, indeed. So, dear Mr. Martin, this is just to put on record that the Queen has now signed the charter book of the Royal Society as patron. I shall be ringing you up shortly about collecting it.
Good news.
And a file note.
Oh, a little file note. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II signed the charter book as patron on 15 October 1952. I love this stuff. Keith, who draws up these beautiful pages with all this lovely artwork?
Well, I did check back in the records again to see what we should do this time. The Royal Society approached the College of Arms to give advice on this because it is quite heraldic, as you can see, and they recommended an illuminated to design and produce the page for us. And again, that's the process that we'll be doing this time. I'm now in touch with the college, and we'll be producing a new royal page for King Charles III.
This must be really exciting for you, the thought of, like, after 70 years of signatures following this royal page, signature after signature after signature.
Huge number of signatures, yeah.
Finally a new royal page. It's like it's history.
It is, yes, and it will become part of the charter book for the rest of the organisation's lifetime. So, and we hope it's another 350 years plus, of course. So, actually being part of the process of creating that is it's quite an interesting experience. So here we have one of the Royal Society's royal medals, and these have been given every year to scientists. Initially, 2 per year, one for the A side, the physical sciences, one for the B side, the biological sciences. And during Queen Elizabeth II's reign, she added a third for engineering sciences. So there are 3 awards at the moment. And you can see the royal initials there. Again, this is a rather beautiful box. And if I open that, you will see the medal itself with the Queen's profile and produced, as you can see, from the Royal Mint.
May I hold it, Keith? I'm never going to get awarded one, so this is the closest I'll get.
By all means, so let's just pop it out of the box so you can see both sides of the medal.
That is chunky. That is a big piece of metal.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
So there we have quite a young queen there,
yes.
Elizabeth II.
You see on the other side there's Sir Isaac Newton.
That's a good-looking medal.
And it's been presented to many of the most famous scientists that we've talked about in the past in Objectivity. So pretty much any leading scientist you can think of who's done something very, very significant has been awarded one of these. It is for making an advance and an improvement in natural knowledge.
Well, Keith, thank you very much for accommodating us at this busy and unusual and solemn time, but it's really interesting to have a look at the past, and we look forward to seeing what happens in the future.
Indeed. Lots more to do, but we'll report back to you when we've done that.
Give us the executive summary. What is its proper name and what is this thing?
This is a silver gilt ceremonial mace. It was presented to the Royal Society by King Charles II, who was our first patron, and it dates from 1663. So if you think that the Royal Society began in 1660 and had its first meetings in November of that year, this mace has been with the organisation for most of its history.